I see an environment where it's not going to change the role of a technician, right? The codes still say somebody has to physically look at it and physically touch it and look and inspect it. However, it will help make the job easier, right? As it relates to how you use AI. And that drives the efficiency and makes for a better customer experience, gives us an environment to capture more data, how you use that data. Mm-hmm. That data then helps drive how we make better equipment. How do we, make the technician inspection process more efficient?
This is episode 90 of the Fire Protection Podcast, powered by InspectPoint. Today, my guest is John Mackey. John is a recurring guest on the podcast. He's got his own consulting group, the Mackey Group. Wanted to give a kind of retrospect onto 2025 and kind of look forward into 2026. We got into previewing our the InspectPoint industry report, which has some survey results. We did this back earlier this year. We're doing it again in early 26 in January. So survey results, but also some anonymized data from our platform, like the top deficiencies being written up, some cool KPIs of what the industry is kind of trending to do. So John and I got into it on that, and then really kind of look back in 25, what happened and where the industry is trending, and then what's going to happen in 26. So it was great to talk to John, catch up. It's been a year or so since he's been on the podcast. So yeah, thanks again for listening and all the viewership and listenership, and here's to a great 25 and off into 26. Thanks again. Hey, John, what's going on?
Hello, Drew. Nice to see you, bud.
Where are you this fine day?
I am sitting in the Minneapolis MSP airport, watching it snow outside, hoping my flight goes on time.
So it's snowing. So it's not the crazy polar vortex that we've got over here, is it?
No, it's yesterday morning's high temperature, or not true. Overnight low yesterday was -6. So yesterday was cold. And today, at the airport, it was 20 and snowing. So there's probably 8 inches of snow on the ground and about 1.5 inches of fresh. So, it's winter travel. As you know, I live in Alabama, so, I'm just anxious to get out of here today.
Yeah, you just want to get home. I think air travel's gotten a little better.
Yeah. And the nice thing about Minneapolis, they're pro. I'm sitting here in a window seat of this little sound booth at the Delta Lounge and watching the orchestrated movement of clearing snow and ice off the runways. And about every 45 minutes, there go 20 trucks and plows maintaining them. So it's a well-oiled machine, and planes are going. So pretty consistent.
Yeah, they're used to it. They're a hub.
Yes, they are. Yes, they are. Yes, they are. So, but all good.
So I know you've been on here a bunch, and this will be the last episode of 25. So I want to kind of give just review of what happened over the last, this year, and maybe looking forward into 26. And I do want to highlight, we have an industry report coming out with some pretty cool data. Uh-huh. I believe it's January 16th, somewhere around there. So don't quote me on that, but I have some data I'll share with you, after we get through the review of 25. But
perfect. As you know, we can talk about anything. We usually do.
I know. Yeah, this is your fourth or fifth time on here. I've been on yours a couple times too.
Yes. So. Yes. No, it's a good partnership we have, and obviously a good friendship. So I always look forward to the opportunity to do this.
Some whopper deals in 25. What is, what's your overall sentiment of 2025 and the fire, just overall fire protection? We can focus in on the contractors and tech space too.
Yeah. But the industry overall continues to be robust. I would say if you look at the last 3 years, the sentiment around installation's a little slow, especially attending the Sprinkler Conference, mm-hmm. the fire alarm conferences in the last few months. Installation in certain parts of the country are slowing down, but that's a relative term, right? Installation's been pretty good for the last couple of years. So we see that downturn, number one. Number two, I think most contractors, and I say that in a general term, understand the need to build their business around service, the recurring inspection, test, inspect, and repair deficiencies. And then, so there is a shift going on. Some of the big installers will continue to be big installers, but the middle market's now starting to take shape around more of a blended service installation base. And I think that it's in response to the consolidation activity we've seen over the last, 5 years, right? The playbook is pretty consistent to say, if you're going to have an off ramp at some point, right, you always should be thinking about, what does that off ramp look like? What does the transition look like? Either turn the business over to a family member, turn it over to your employees, but figure out what as an owner, what your role is and what a transition looks for you in some sort of sale or transaction. And I think a lot of companies now understand what that model is. And for my day-to-day business, I've helped a handful of clients today prepare for that. It's under this umbrella of, built to sell, or built to grow. And through growth, ultimately gets you ready for an off-ramp that you can control as the owner and not necessarily be at the mercy of the market. So it's pretty interesting to see that evolution. Outside of
also having I was just saying, like the power, getting, obviously company ready to sell, but like having the blend of the install, the service, but also knowing what that is, and how do you know that if you don't have the right, I guess, technical tech tools, software, tech stack. If you don't have the appropriate tech stack in place, how do you know that blend, and how do you scale that blend, right?
Exactly. And that's part of the playbook. I mean, today, if you're operating in our industry, you have to have, a technical, that we refer to as a tech stack, but you've got to have a technical platform to help you run your business. What does financial reporting look like, right? And that's just, debits and credits, income and expense, and how you track that. You and I've talked about this a lot. Strong advocates for field service management platform, InspectPoint, for example. And then ultimately, I think the outcome there is data. And today, if you have good data, you are creating an environment which gives you the ability to really understand, how do I grow my business? What levers do I need to pull on based on my mix? How much installation work do I have? How much service work do I have? Where is that work coming from? Is it coming from sprinkler? Is it coming from extinguisher? Is it coming from alarm? It's about efficiency of my technicians. How much work are my technicians getting done? What does route density look like? Right. And that FSM platform gives you the ability to generate that data. And that data then helps you run your business better. Right. Remember when we were together, back in the day at Tyco, it was always about, people, process, technology. Right. Mm-hmm. And, back to your Six Sigma days. Well, the outcome of that today is reporting and data. Mm-hmm. All right. And that now it's 4-legged stool and not just 3, but you have to leverage all 4 of them. So the importance of the tech stack.
Speaking to that, and I'll highlight, since we're on it, might as well highlight it. Right. So, we're putting out this industry report next month, and we did one last year as more of a survey, right? And I'll give some of the survey results to you here in a second too. But just back to those KPIs of what contractors are doing, and this is focused on the recurring revenue, right? So, through our system, I was looking at it. I think we're averaging. So we focus on the inspection. And what is that inspection then driving, right? And proposals and work tickets and all that. Now, we don't always capture the work ticket dollar amount because, the bigger entities might be on another ERP. They might be on Microsoft, SAP, Oracle, maybe even Service Trade, right? That we integrate to. But that inspection dollar, we always have that in there. So, for every, and this is just a highlight and that will be in the report, for every dollar of inspection, pretty low margin on the inspection side. But the results were eye-opening. I thought it was always like a 4-to-1 ratio, but the proposal dollars are actually 10-to-1 in our platform. So for every $100 of inspection, you're getting $1,000 of proposal that's going out the door.
That's crazy. I'm in the
Yeah.
camp with you. I was always in that camp for 1 to 3 or 1 to 4. Right. But now to see 1 to 10. So that's in the proposal dollar. Do you see where you win quotes? What's the win quote ratio? What does that come in at?
Yeah, I didn't pull the win quote, and I'll actually have that in the industry report. So that's a good one to pull. Now that's best in breed. I think the average is more like 5 to 1. So, for every $100, you're getting $500 a proposal. I think the best companies out there that I've seen are pulling in 10 to 1 on the proposal. So they're quoting everything, right? And that could be install. That could be other pieces to their business, right? But they're in the building on that inspection. It is tied to that. So, it's higher than that 4 to 1. So it's at that 5 to 1 ratio. Now, what is actually being converted? We'll have that on the industry report. I'll make sure we put it in there.
I think that's great. I think it highlights the importance of the test and inspect cycle and why we do what we do. All right, that is such a critical gateway to running our businesses, and because it is all about driving to compliance and really understand what condition these buildings are in. Another
metric I'll toss out there since we're talking about it is we have a good deficiency quoting platform. Write the deficiency, tech can do it in the field, or usually the back office is writing up that quote, salesperson or somebody. But the average days to approve is 19 days. So I think that was trending quite a bit higher, and we talked to a lot of customers we onboard that it's trending around a month, but it's starting to move down to the 20-day mark, right, where they're getting it out as soon as possible. What I also think is helping in this is the compliance platforms are really pushing people to get the work done.
Yeah, I was just talking to another client earlier this week, and he's in West Tennessee, and he says that third-party reporting is starting to drop around him. And it's the same thing. Now it's this race to compliance because, I'll reference the city. So it's Memphis. And he says that, and we see this in every municipality across the country, that the fire marshal does not have the resources to drive, to look at every inspection report or deficiency report that comes into his office. And so the third-party reporting platforms are driving to a higher standard and supporting the fire services to get there. And the other thing that was interesting is that he also said insurance companies are getting much more aggressive around compliance.
Interesting.
Yeah, I thought that was pretty interesting as well. We've always known they're there, but they've always been there on the front end. FM compliance when you put in FM listings for when you put in a system, right? But now you've got the insurance companies also mandating that those systems are then maintained in accordance with the code. And they're asking for visibility to those reports.
Wow. Yeah, I know a lot of insurance companies, they want the latest and greatest codes, but then it goes back to the state. Yeah, I'm glad the insurance is that you're hearing that, because I would occasionally hear it, but then it's more the AHJs. And one of the polls we put out, and this will be in the industry report. I keep plugging this thing, but this is more of a poll. But we did it to prospects, so people that aren't on our platform, just general industry. We sent it to about 200 people responded, and we did a separate customer one, but they mentioned of like 80% of the compliance. It's in compliance engine, they see it a lot, which is, I think 7 years ago, a lot of companies were hating on it. So I think companies still do that, but there's not enough technicians to follow up on all this deficiency work. So I think that's a great problem for these contractors to have.
It really is. I mean, you and I both know the operators at Compliance Engine, know them well, and their model makes a lot of sense. It grew from the fire space, right? We know that's where it started from. And so I think the resistance we saw was just lack of understanding where they fit in the marketplace. Right? Is it a service to the fire protection contractor, or is it a service to the communities that they're in and the fire service? At the end of the day, it's a service for the fire service. The fire chief, the fire marshal, who's responsible to maintain compliance and safety in the community. Very compelling argument. I think, and you see it, I think the challenge that we've had over time is that the fire protection contractors don't know where they fit in that conversation. And so at the end of the day, if we're both responsible for driving compliance in the communities we live in, then let's work together and make sure we meet that need. More and more, it's coming because the fire department's not getting any more money. They're going to spend $2 million on a fire rig. They're not going to spend it on people, or they'll invest in technology and process through partnerships like they're creating now with this.
Yeah, and I don't think the building owners are going to get. They should get their critical and impairment, the stuff they need to fix. They should fix. Absolutely. And I think the fire departments will know that if there's an FDC cap missing, right? Okay, they're not going to. Hopefully they're not on them for that, but. If they haven't done a 5-year internal in 15 years, somebody should be looking at that, right?
Absolutely. Right. There's a reason why we have the code, right? The code is written because of some hazard or some fatality that happened at some point, right. All the way back to 1905 when it all started. So there's been some compelling reason as to why we had the code stated the way it is.
So I pulled deficiency data, which I've been wanting for like 4 or 5 years, right? And we'll have some more when this report comes out. But what do you think? I'll ask you. Now this is across. Now we segment it, right? It's alarm, it's extinguisher, it's sprinkler, and then specialty suppression. And we kind of normalize a lot of our question sets on the NFPA and ULC codes. Yeah. What do you think would just toss out like the top deficiencies? And then maybe you're not as well versed in this, but I'd be curious to see what you would say, because I thought something different.
I think that are these critical deficiencies or just what you have overall, what's stated in your system as a deficiency?
It's any deficiency that's categorized and anything written up on an inspection.
So I'm going to say I will lead with sprinkler, and I'm going to say painted or obstructed sprinkler head. We won. The second one is going to be an obstructed fire extinguisher. They're all compliant, but think of a Dollar General store and they're blocking the fire extinguisher, and the second thing is they're blocking the exit door, egress door. Right? That's more life safety 101 than fire alarm, but it's an issue. So I think that to me, it's the low-hanging fruit. It's obstructions, a painted head or something that creates a situation where the device, is not going to operate as designed because it's blocked, it's dirty, it's painted. And that device could be either a fire alarm device or a sprinkler head.
So you got all those are in the top 10. And again, I gotta dig into this data. I literally got it last night. There's an anomaly out there. It's like, we put the NFPA 10 questions in there for extinguisher, but a lot of them just defaulted, did it pass inspection. And that was by far the number one deficiency. 37,000 failed extinguishers this past year. So look at that.
Did it say why they failed?
Crazy, right?
Pressure gauge or?
No, that's why, I think the extinguisher, the way the extinguisher business goes, it's like, if it fails, you're just going to swap it or put a loaner in there. We do have it, there's 7 to 10 questions per NFPA 10. Is the hose, all that. Yeah. We have that, but a lot of people just, they're just swapping it out. Gauges is number one.
Pressure gauge on sprinkler systems?
Yeah. Or any gauge, because it has to be tested within 5 years, right? Yeah. Which I know people are always. That's an old. It is a deficiency, right? Now it's not an always critical one. Your sprinkler on foreign object, being the sprinkler head being not obstructed, but like painted or whatever. Yep. That was up there. A 5-year internal on a sprinkler system. Yep. That was up there. That was actually in the top 3.
I think to your being, you and I talked about a lot. I think that's one of the things, obviously top 3. So one of the biggest hazards we have out there. I mean, you and I have looked inside sprinkler systems, it's just nasty, and how those things, just get built up with just crud. It makes no sense, but it's there, right? And so the obstructions happen because, that's why you have the internal. That, you need water flowing unobstructed when that sprinkler head pops. So, let's remove the obstructions. Interesting.
Another one, obviously, the top by far on the fire alarm side is batteries, right?
Okay.
Yeah, that's an easy one,
Yeah.
right? They always have to be replaced and tested, and so that's obviously the backup power there. So,
Yeah. Interesting.
and then I think some pull station, that was like a top one of
Yep.
the top ones on the fire alarm side too. Yeah. Anyway, we'll get more into this. I like the deficiency data because, all right, what are technicians writing up? We have the different statuses as well, like critical, non-critical impairment, and what are the biggest impairments,
Yeah.
right? And what are the biggest critical tags? Now, not everybody, we don't require that tag, but I know that flows into Compliance Engine and some of
Yeah.
the other platforms too. So
Also,
I might compare
expectations at
notes with
the
them.
expectations at the municipality level too. I think if you had take that data to the fire, like the National Association of State Fire Marshals,
Yep.
talk to Butch and say, hey, what's your take on this data? Does this align with what you'd
Yeah.
see when you were running the state he came out of? And as a fire marshal, what keeps you up at night as it relates to compliance? Just to kind of get
Right.
kind of validate the market, right? He's he's running association now for the state fire marshals, but he was a state fire marshal for a long, long time and a very good advocate for the use of data too. So, be interesting. I'd love to be a part of that conversation.
Oh yeah, right. It'd be interesting. I wonder. I mean, the jurisdictions have to have this too, right? So I'd be interested to compare at the jurisdictional level. Now, a lot of their data, depending, is it's not normalized.
Right.
Like ours is pretty normalized because we kind of give you the question sets. So per NFPA. So it's nice to see that, but I know NFPA has been trying to do this study for years and years, and they haven't had good results. But now, I think with the power of the compliance platforms, we should be able to do that as an industry.
Right. And I talked about it way back when, being like probably 5 years ago. NFPA 950 and 951, right? Data and data collection. Right. And the challenge we're having is that the questions are on the front end aren't consistent. How the data is collected is not consistent. And so,
right.
Garbage in, garbage out. So how do we improve the quality of the data? And I think with you, like you're experiencing, I think the third parties will help us get down that path. And number one, and number two, the inspection platform like yours has the question written as it's laid out in the code. Mm-hmm. There's no local ambiguity. There's no circulation. It's black and white. Here it is. It's either compliant or it's not.
Yeah, good stuff. Let's we can pivot off that. Any other highlights from 25 that you can see or are on your mind?
Yeah, I think, very interesting year. Like we started at the beginning of the call, overall the markets, the industry as a whole is in a good spot. A lot of moving deck chairs. We've been in this, M&A cycle now. I got involved in it, and we did a merger in Tyco in 2008, right? On the equipment side, right? And then it rolled to the contractor side. It essentially started taking hold in 2012. And so here we are now, it's 2025. So 13-year cycle of a lot of, consolidation. And the companies that started the process are now on their third sponsor, their third strategic owner. They've gone through a couple evolutions. Those small companies that were doing, 10 or 15, $25 million in top line revenue, now are, north of $500 million in revenue. And now they've gone from, 2 offices or 3 offices to 30, 40, 50, or 60 offices. And that's just the middle of the market. You are the top of the market, and the size of Summit companies, the size of Pi Barker, the size of API Group, even the growth of Cintas. All of them have hundreds of offices now, and the revenues they're driving, are over $1 billion. And I'm still in the camp. Bigger isn't necessarily better from an operations perspective. Financially, I understand why we do it and why it's there. I still think the value in our industry is in the regional level and the local level, because at the end of the day, it's about local compliance and how do you meet that local need. But the market dynamics are saying, let's consolidate, let's find some synergies on how we run these businesses, and some standardization around scale when you get to 20 offices or 30 offices. And that then sets the table why you need a good tech stack, right? Good financial reporting, good vision to where the business is at from a field service management perspective, a solid CRM platform, good project management suite to run, let's see if it's a complex service or upgrade. Or even an install, but you need to have visibility to that. So again, the need for a good tech stack.
Yeah.
I think that what is surprising to me is that, the top of the market has only gotten bigger. The companies I referenced, Summit traded earlier this year from one PE firm to another investment group. They traded hands. Pi Barker at the end of last year raised a significant amount of capital to recapitalize some of their early investors. So they're going down their path. AI Fire traded hands, Encore traded hands. And so that's fine and dandy. It's just the top of the market. I think where the rubber meets the road is, let's talk about everyone that's $30 million and less, right? People that are still trying to grow their business and operate that thing every day. And how do we continue to support those folks? For me, it's about operational integrity, putting together some good foundational pieces in their business, helping them deploy a good tech stack, again, people, process, technology, and data, and then, help them grow because, we've been in it, right? You have a choice. Do you want to compete against Simplex Grinnell and the size of Simplex Grinnell when you're, ABC Fire Company and, you've got 10 techs you're trying to feed, right? Give me that small contractor all day long and give them the resources to go compete against the big guys because they are much better positioned, much more nimble to take care of the customer. That's what it's all about, right? But, the M&A game will continue. One of the analysts I talked to early this summer said we're in the third inning. In the last 8 years, we've done 1,000 deals, which is, crazy, but only 1,000. And his forecast is that over the next 8 years, we'll see another 1,000. But as you know, you're not talked about it. How many contractors in our space? North of 10,000, right? And that number stays the same for the most part. Even with all this consolidation, we still have 10,000 contractors.
Yeah, there's fracturing. And I think that'll continue to happen because of the labor market. And I promote more people to do it. And
absolutely.
I'm like, why not? Right. If you have the toughest part right now is the labor market. So if you can grab a hold of that, start your own 5-person company, not even 3-person company.
Yeah.
Right. I just, it's not that I think people, get scared to start their own business and to get to that 10 to 20 person company level, that's tough to do. But, you got to make the break at some point, right?
Absolutely. I think that to your point, we talked about this in early episodes of your podcast, that look at the evolution of the industry, right? A big, conglomerate comes into your market and buys XYZ fire protection. And within 6 months, you got 3 new companies that just stood up because they didn't get a piece of the equity. They didn't, the owner retired and they had a relationship with the owner. I'm not saying all 3 of those companies are going to be successful, but 2 probably going to make it. Right. And in 5 to 7 years, you can build a, $7 to $10 million business with, like you said, 5 people. Right. Yeah. And that's the model that continues to hold that number at 10,000 contractors. Right. Yeah. And I think that's the evolution we're going to continue to see because it goes back to, again, this is a regionally driven market or industry, a locally driven industry. And that's where the value is.
Yeah. There's also 4 big tech deals. Fire tech deals, right? 3 of them were compliance platforms. You had Brycer's Compliance Engine, you had Live, and then you had First Do, which were whopper valuations. And obviously there's a lot of need there within the AHJ market, and that continues to snowball and just have positive, tremendous exponential growth. Yep. So, and then Uptick, which is a competitor of ours, they were in the mix as well, got pretty valued very highly. So interesting that fire tech was a big big highlight in 25 as well.
Yeah, would be remiss if we didn't also talk about what's going on. Carrier sold Kidda, at the end of last year, right? And so, that breakup. So you even have, so we talk about the consolidation consolidation at the contractor level, the investment coming into software, and then at the equipment side, just the moving pieces there. I mean, one Reliable sold last year going into AFSA in the fall.
Yeah, that's true.
Right. So
quiet,
very quiet, right? So you think of that, right there. And at the end of the day, to me, what that highlights is the strength of our industry with all this money coming in. It creates an opportunity for new products and product innovation. We're slow. We are not good as an industry with regard to innovation. Right. And the code process kind of slows that down, but how do we get better faster? That's number one. Number two, more investment coming in behind the technology platforms just makes them more robust to create packages that really resonate with the users, either the end user, business owners being the building owner, the restaurant, the strip mall, the, industrial plant, but also gives tools to the contractors to run their business better. And then you roll it into the money coming in on the contracting side, creates an environment. Now you can put hopefully better training programs together, right? To train the technicians that we do have, create an environment where the technicians coming into the industry are, trained faster, better to keep up with the demand that we need. Because I'm with you, we have a significant need for technicians in our space. And as an industry, we have to do a better job of, one, attracting them, and then two, developing them to provide nice couple of careers.
We had an HVAC technician working on our furnace the other day, and he's probably 25, 30, and I was like, man, you made the right call doing what you're doing. Yeah. And I saw the bill they sent me too, and it's like, yeah, you did the right thing. I don't know if you're getting a piece of that, but I'm sure he was trying to upsell me on some deficiencies, and I was like, I know what you're doing. Anyway, I know we put a survey out there of like, what are technicians' hourly rates, right? And it's what do we put? Let's see, majority are probably around 40 an hour, right? I think that's probably take home now with all the benefits, but there were, weirdly enough, 100 plus was a high percentage of the pie, which I don't know who's getting $100 an hour.
Well, I will speak on behalf of the contractors that are not in big cities. You're going to have somebody that's in Peoria saying, okay, where do I have to find that $100 an hour job? I don't think it's in Peoria. However, think of some of the high cost areas we have across the country, the Bay Area, New York City. That's what the market's going to demand. And so, kudos to the technicians that are there. They're able to collect that wage. I think that, as your data says, shaking out about $40, that's, you run the math on that, it's $85,000 a year. Right. So, you're living within, simple means, $85,000 gives you a comfortable lifestyle, in most parts, not New York City, but other parts of the country.
Out of school. So
absolutely. Yeah. Big advocate for people trying to come into our industry and highlight where the opportunities are at, because pick a city, pick any aspects of the trades that we have in our space, opportunities are endless. Right, for great careers.
All right, we'll wrap it up. I guess what do you, anything for 26 that you see? I have my own ideas, but
I think it's we're going to see, I think, softness in the installation side. I think the market will continue to chase service and what that looks like. The consolidation game, the M&A game will continue. Got some big deals in the market right now to see a good finish to the end of this year, and anticipate that next year is going to be a similar model. It's not going to be at the top of the market. Now it's going to be the middle. Right. All right. So that's healthy. And then I think that as a big investment firms that have been in our space now for 5 or 7 years, as they exit, the next firm's coming right behind them. Right. And there's, I could count on, 2 hands, so less than 10 companies that are playing in this game. Today, there's 50 private equity firms, maybe even close to 75 that are in our space. Right. And I get calls every day from newcomers trying to come in.
Oh, yeah.
To go back, what does the runway look like? Still see a good pace of deals. The multiples are still good. Some are really good, being double digit. And it comes down to fundamentals and how you run your business, and what your, balance is between install and service.
Sure.
But I still think it's a very strong market. I'm very bullish on where we're at, especially when you look out to 2030. We need people. The systems need to be, maintained and inspected, and we've got the business models to do that. So let's continue to feed the beast.
Yeah, it's good. I think with the I'm on the tech side, right? Everybody, stock market and the markets are up, a lot of it due to AI. And I think the install industry for systems, fire systems, are going to be heavily following data center building and all that. And again, those are the bigger contractors, bigger contracts, but that will feed the industry, right? That building. But with that AI, it's being brought in these tech pieces and software like ours, and there's public AI out there, public LLMs. Everybody's utilizing it every day, pretty much, right? But if you can make it industry focused, that's where I really think there's value, because if you have a data set that is hyper focused on an industry, you can make it smart for that industry and that kind of purpose versus kind of the public side. There's still you still need the public side, I think, but if you can make it focused on an industry, it's and that's where we've seen a lot of great headway and a lot of investment.
And I think it's great. Again, it highlights the future where we're going. I'm a strong advocate for AI. I see an environment where it's not going to change the role of a technician, right? The codes still say somebody has to physically look at it and physically touch it and look and inspect it. However, it will help make the job easier, right, as it relates to how you use AI. And that drives the efficiency and makes for a better customer experience. Gives us an environment to capture more data, how you use that data. Mm-hmm. That data then helps drive, how we make better equipment. How do we, make the technician, process, the inspection process more efficient, streamlined, right? So at the end of the day, it's all about progressively moving the business forward. And not waiting for the code to tell us otherwise. Right. We'll let the codes catch up, but we'll run the businesses, using some form of AI.
I like that. Get ahead of the codes, right? And instead of, it's an interesting way to look at it. Well, John, this has been great, man. Thanks again for, coming on. I've been wanting to share some of this data, and I thought you'd be a good person to do it with. So, well,
thank you. Always look forward to the conversation. I'm really anxious to see the report. And really, have a deeper conversation with you and, some of our industry friends and say, okay, what does this really mean? But I'm happy to hear that you guys have collected it. It tells a good story, and understand where we're at, what are the strengths of the industry and what are the challenges that we have and how do we solve for it going forward. So anxious to see what it says.
Well, enjoy the holiday season in warm Alabama, and,
thank you. I will probably find an opportunity to golf a couple of days during the Christmas break.
I didn't hear that.
You always have an open invite to come down, man.
I know. It's all good. I'll get it. I'm taking. I put the clubs away. I try to put them up, for a month or two, and then try to get south at some point in the winter.
All right. Well, let's try to find an opportunity to do that together. So,
I'm in.
Yeah. All right, man. Thank you. I really appreciate the opportunity.
Good seeing you.
All right. Thanks.
All right. This has been episode 90 of the Fire Protection Podcast, powered by InspectPoint. I want to thank John Mackey again for coming on the podcast, discussing 2025 and forward into 2026 and diving into our industry report a little bit. So thanks again, and we'll see you here again in the new year. Cheers.